just sitting here walking and thinking, right? As I think, and I'm sitting here thinking about like segregation and stuff like that, right? Obviously, I wasn't alive to experience what the fuck people had to go through when segregation was a thing, but it seemed like when segregation ended and like all the I ain't even gonna say racism ended because it's still racism and shit that's going on today, but like once blacks and whites were allowed to like, share same rooms and share the same things and stuff like that, why is it like when we got our freedom in that sense, once that cycle broke, a new cycle was created within the black community? And what I mean by that is like, we used to stick together during those times. Like,
Have y'all heard about redlining, the intentional residential segregation of black folks? Let's talk about it.
Segregation will make blacks filthy rich. All of our dollars going back into our community? Are you serious?
They're bringing back segregation because they know a world without black and brown people is coming, and it terrifies them.
We gonna clear this up right now. Nobody's upset, Popo. See, the one thing black people ain't gonna do is lose sleep over other people that want to create a safe space for themselves.
This app about to go away, so I'm gonna say what I gotta say. So I just watched a really great video by this black woman who was talking about how segregation in today's world is really not about black people, it's about white people. And I'm not gonna summarize her video, but I will talk about something that recently came up in real life in conversation.
Listening to that first speaker really makes you think. I mean, he's not saying segregation itself was a good thing. No, he's asking why black communities seemed to be, more united during those years when there was, segregation. And he says back then, people often depended on each other because they had no choice. Black-owned businesses, churches, schools, and neighborhoods became the foundation of the black community. Now, today, many people feel that that sense of unity has weakened, according to this man. That's why you are hearing more conversations about self-resilience, rebuilding black community. But it's not because people want to return to discrimination itself. They're not proud to be segregated. It's because they miss the economic strength, the cooperation, the support that existed within many, black neighborhoods. And honestly, that's the real conversation people are having. So anyway, let's dive into this and let's listen to even that first speaker in full detail. What exactly is her main message after that? There are more people who are saying so many things about segregation in black community. So anyway, don't miss this. Let's understand what exactly are they sharing, different perspective from them. If this is your first time, please subscribe so we can have more of this. Otherwise, I'll see you somewhere at the end for more discussion.
through thick and thin, like I was seeing, like I had watched the movie Judas and the Black Messiah. If y'all haven't seen it, bro, go watch it. But I was just seeing like the sense of community and shit like that we had within our communities, like how everybody was there for each other, bro. Like it was always us against everybody. And it's like when that segregation shit ended, that dynamic kind of faded and it just went away, like just magically poof and out of thin air. Like the black people, we don't stick together anymore, bro. There's no sense of community. There's no sense of, like, there's no family dynamic between our people, bro. Like we're divided, we're split, we're in competition with each other, we kill each other. But it wasn't really a lot of that going on. We rob each other, we steal from each other, but we don't do that to anyone else. And it's like, what happened to the dynamic, bro? Like, what happened to sticking together? What happened to experiencing the growing pains and like helping each other get through these hardships and hard times? It's like we keep walking around this motherfucker like we the minority, but we're not the minority when you think about it, bro. Like everything happen to us. We're the only race that got to dig deep to figure out what the fuck, like what our real true history was before slavery, like pre-slavery. Like we're the only generation that just accepts slavery for what it was, but we don't think about what shit was like way before that, and how we were really royalty and royal, like how deep and how far back our bloodline and shit running trace. It's just something I was thinking about. Like, yeah, those times they say was some of the worst times, but in my opinion, them look like some of the best times because that's when black people felt the safest within their own hoods or their own like communities and shit like that. Like they had that type of infrastructure there, and they just had that type of dynamic in place and instilled within everybody around them. Like it was a mutual understanding. You feel what I'm saying? But now it's like everybody is, you can't trust nobody with the same skin complexion as you. You can't. And that shit's sad to say, and it's just sad to see, but that's just a thought I had.
This app about to go away, so I'm gonna say what I gotta say. So I just watched a really great video by this black woman who was talking about how segregation in today's world is really not about black people, it's about white people. And I'm not gonna summarize her video, but I will talk about something that recently came up in real life in conversation. And I was in a conversation with people that were half black, half white. Now, full disclosure, I am black and Chinese. My entire life, though, I have been identified as a black woman to society. Well, really an Oreo, but that's a conversation from a totally different video. But in talking about this whole segregation in 2025 topic, they were like, oh, you know, people, the internet is saying that segregation is a good thing and that, you know, it's been good for the black community. And I didn't say anything. I was just silent. But in the video, the person that I tagged, she talked a lot about how white people specifically have benefited from integration, because even though we were supposed to be promised separate and equal, or, you know, together and equal, it has not been equal for black people. Black people still are not paid the same as white counterparts. Black people still are not afforded the same opportunities, especially since the rollback of the affirmative action. Black people are still at the hands of police brutality. Like, it really hasn't done like a huge thing. However, with white people being in close proximity to black people and minorities in general, they have been afforded the opportunity to be educated on how their ancestors have behaved both currently and previously in history. And it's because of that proximity of white people to minorities, specifically black people, that they have been able to learn, grow, flourish, and with apps like TikTok have been able to change the overall perception of history, specifically in the United States. Now let's get back to the conversation that I was having in real life. So I was having a really hard time of understanding where these people were coming from, the people that were half white, half black. Because as someone who is mixed, right, black and Chinese, the one drop rule has applied to my life through and through. In fact, a lot of people have actually denied that I am Chinese, even though I know my heritage and where I come from, at least that part of my family. So what I asked in that conversation was, well, if you had to choose, would you go with your black family or your white family? And they both said I would go with my black family. And I said, why? And they said, well, they're just a lot more fun. Like, I feel like I have community. I feel like I have people that really like stick beside me. And what I really think it boils down to is community, because minorities have been forced to assemble their own communities because of oppression, because of things like segregation. And in doing so, are able to support their own people regardless of, you know, what those people look like, because of the way they have been oppressed in the past. Which is why you see today a lot of black people online are like, oh, I don't care if we're segregated or whatever. But a lot of white people are like, no, we can't do this, because they would in fact lose their community. The best way that I can think to put this in perspective for people who just aren't getting it is when we look at men and women. So right now, men are going through this loneliness epidemic, right? Where a lot of women just don't want to get married. They're not really interested in dating. They are buying their own homes. They're working their own jobs. They're making, you know, their multiple six-figure salaries, whatever. They have their own businesses. They can have their own bank accounts without men. They can do whatever without men. So women are like, why would I opt to be in a relationship with a man when I can just do bad all by myself? When you look at men who typically don't have as flourishing of a community or as well-rounded of a community as women do, right? Relationships typically aren't that deep with other men. They also aren't really emotionally available with other men, or have like different opportunities where they can feel like they can be emotionally safe with other people. When they are in relationships, they seek a lot of emotional support from women because they don't have that in other aspects of their life. So the fact that women are going off and doing their own thing and don't give a damn about men, it's really hurting the men, and the men are like, no, we don't want this. But if men would actually, you know, be more emotionally available with their friends, you know, go to therapy, talk about their feelings, you know, have, you know, celebrations and birthday parties and just deeper friendships and connections and relationships like women do, then they wouldn't really be bothered if women were doing all the things that we're already doing on our own. It's patriarchal beliefs that are holding men back from living their best lives, because now that women are separate and mostly kind of ish equal, depending on who you're talking to, we can go off and do our own thing and live our best lives. Similarly, black people have their own community, have their own restaurants, banks, shops, businesses, influencers, all of it, right? So white people who don't really have the same community, who don't have the same deep connections, don't have the same village of people to really be behind them in their own culture and their own lives, are going to be missing out because they don't have the support from minorities, aka black people in this case. And in that scenario, it's white supremacy, which hint is very closely related, if not cousins, to patriarchy, because If white people actually had their own communities where they were flourishing and it didn't really need to rely on minorities, and they could be fine all by themselves. In case you needed yet another example of how white people don't really have community, is since January 15th, Inauguration Day, I have not seen a single viral protest video or slew of videos. I haven't seen a single one. I'm on the internet every single day, haven't seen one. Why? Because they aren't out there. They're not protesting. There's no community. There's no organization. There's no one to really spearhead the movement. Who typically spearheads all the activism and protests and any civil rights related movements? Black people. While I still have you here, I would like to also point out that because white people don't have these big, flourishing, supportive communities like other minorities do, they really grasp hold of their communities in real life, so like their families and, their people they hang out with at the country clubs, et cetera, et cetera. So when things like a presidential election happens and people find out that their other half of their family actually voted for someone that they don't support, it is actually less likely that they're going to leave that family, because it's literally the only semblance of community they have that does not involve minorities. So I'm going to conclude this TED Talk by saying that whether or not you believe segregation was positive or negative for the Black community, I better not see a single Black person at a protest or marching on April 5th. Thank you.
Funniest part about that whites only town in Arkansas, Black folks ain't mad, and you're mad, we not mad. So there's a brand new whites only town in Arkansas, and the gag is Black people don't even care. Now, I've seen the comments. Aren't Black people upset? Why are you mad about this? We gonna clear this up right now. Nobody's upset, poo-poo. See, the one thing Black people ain't gonna do is lose sleep over other people that want to create a safe space for themselves. Build your own little town, plant a flag, that's fine. Hang a welcome sign, whatever makes you feel good. Honestly, we gotta be real about something, because I saw the interviews, I saw the clips. This ain't a town of exceptional people. I mean, think about it. If you drop everything to move to this town, you probably already didn't have much going on anyway, right? And that's not shade, that's facts. So the question is, again, why should Black folks care? This is the part that cracks me up the most. Y'all want us to care. I see the confusion in your eyes. I see it. Y'all like, don't the Blacks care? Don't they want to be where we are? Nah. We just want to make sure when we build our communities, we're not cheated out of the things that we're supposed to have. That's all we care about, boo. And it's wild because history has shown as soon as Black people do build their own thriving spaces, what happened? Some of your people roll up and burn the whole thing down. But we're supposed to believe now y'all just want to be left alone. Child, I'm going to tell you what really gave it away for me, though. The fact that they ran to the media. That's not privacy, y'all. That's desperation. Numbers must be low. If you got to beg the evening news to let them know that you exist, waitlist my ass. See, if Black folks were building their town, the media would be the last people that we want to know about it. We gatekeep. We ain't trying to broadcast. But y'all couldn't wait to hold the press conference. That's not security, that's thirst. So no, we're not upset, we're not jealous, we're not even plotting to crash your party. Because truth be told, we really don't care. And honestly, that's what really bothers y'all.
Anybody ever thought about how desensitized we are to segregation? I was in the store and I was walking down the ethnic aisle, the international aisle. I go down this aisle all the time. The thing that stopped me was the baby formula. Because why is the baby formula on the international aisle separated from the baby formula that's in the baby section of the store? And how do they decide when products need to be segregated? Because the Kewpie mayo used to be on the international aisle, and in one of the stores that I go to, it's now with the regular mayo. I went shopping the other day and I was looking for a skirt. I went to the skirt section of the store. My size wasn't there, and I was like, oh, I gotta go to the plus size section. That made me realize the sections of the store is really men, women, boys, girls, fat bitches. Am I lying? I don't even have to talk about segregation from a context of race, because we segregate all types of shit. But Sunday is the most segregated day of the week. Think about that.
They're bringing back segregation because they know a world without Black and brown people is coming, and it terrifies them. Trump just rolled back protections that ban segregated facilities for federal contractors, and the internet's acting shocked. But me, I'm not surprised, clearly. This is what desperate power looks like. This isn't about restoring order or merit-based hires. This is a tantrum from an almost 80-year-old man. White supremacy is in its flop era, and it's grasping at any old trick it can find. Segregation? Really? I feel like that's how we know they're scared. Because let's be real. Black folks, we are unbothered. You can't shake people that have been surviving state-sanctioned violence since the dawn of time. We've had underfunded schools, medical negligence, and cultural erasure since day one. We don't panic when the system turns on us. We expect it. We don't fold. We multiply. We turn every block into a blueprint, every struggle into a strategy, and every threat into a legacy. As I said in my pinned video, a world without Black and brown people is coming. Not because we're disappearing, because we're divesting. From their politics, from their corporations, their watered down narratives, their respectability games, we want no parts. We've seen what happens when we show up and we make America run. But this time we're choosing to build our own instead. And that's what scares them. Not the loss of power, but the loss of relevance. Because without our culture, our labor, our innovation, our souls, what is America really? Let them scramble. Let them cling to segregation like it's going to save them. We've already moved on. And when that world without us fully arrives, they're going to finally understand what unbothered really looks like.
Segregation will make blacks filthy rich. All of our dollars going back into our community? Are you serious? You won't be able to go to Miss Ann's. You won't be able to go to Mr. Charlie's and go spend your money. You'll be spending it with us. We'll learn how to do things again. We'll learn how to survive like it was when I was growing up in the 60s. Black folks, our community had everything we needed. Go on with your segregation. People think it's a bad thing. It's only going to be bad for mixed people. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to make you not be able to use the restroom with white people? And your mama's white, she's going to have to stand outside the bathroom and wait for you to go on the black side. This is so crazy. Donald Trump, this is a different type of racism you're on.
Have y'all heard about redlining, the intentional residential segregation of black folks? Let's talk about it. Okay, here's your Civics in 60 about residential segregation through redlining. Okay, this is going to be a little bit more than 60 seconds. According to Britannica, redlining is an illegal discriminatory practice where mortgage lenders deny loans or an insurance provider restricts services to certain areas of a community, often because of the racial characteristics of the applicant's neighborhood. Redlining practices also include unfair and abusive loan terms for borrowers, outright deception, and penalties for prepaying loans. The term redlining references the use of red marks on maps that loan corporations would use to outline black neighborhoods, whereas, of course, neighborhoods in more affluent areas, which were deemed the most worthy of loans, were usually outlined in blue or green. Literal red marks, y'all, led to redlining. Okay, let's bring it home. If you've ever wondered why the West End of Louisville, the predominantly black West End of Louisville, looks the way it does with the disinvestment, the disinterest, the racial wealth gap, I need you to know the word redlining. In 1917, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Louisville's housing segregation ordinance illegal in the case Buchanan v. Worley. The case brought an end to Louisville's residential segregation ordinance of 1914 when William Worley, a local civil rights leader, challenged the ordinance and purchased a home on a block designated for whites only at 37th Street and Fance Avenue. The 1914 ordinance was put in place with the stated intent to prevent conflict and ill feeling between the white and colored races in the city of Louisville, and to preserve the public peace and general welfare by making reasonable provisions requiring, as far as practical, the use of separate blocks for residences for white and colored people. Okay, y'all, let's talk about this thing in Louisville called the 9th Street Divide. In 1957, Louisville real estate interests recommended locating an elevated expressway through 9th Street. If you've driven to Louisville, you've probably experienced that elevated expressway at 9th Street. Y'all, this concept was based on the Federal Housing Administration's 1938 recommendation that a high-speed traffic artery or a wide street parkway may prevent the expansion of undesirable entities into adjacent areas and serve as protection from adverse influences and inharmonious racial groups. Y'all, Louisville has an unmistakable racial barrier, a literal physical barrier that is ironically named after civil rights leader Roy Wilkins. This wasn't an accident. This was racial capitalism. It was the government working with banks and real estate to block black families from home ownership. Researcher Josh Poe did the painstaking work of mapping exactly what that looked like, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, so we can see what policy violence looks like over time. You can still trace those outlined boundaries, those red-lined boundaries, onto a map of Louisville today and watch them line up with poverty, pollution, and premature death. Interested in more information like this? Follow me for more Civics in 60.
Imagine wishing something painful would come back again, not because you loved the pain, no, but because you missed the good things that somehow existed alongside it. I mean, that's exactly what this conversation is all about. Now, nobody is celebrating segregation. Nobody is saying discrimination was fair or was good, but some people are looking back and asking, like, what exactly did the black community lose after those barriers came down? And honestly, that's a question, worth discussing, worth paying attention to, without pretending the answer is simple. Now, the first concern many people in this video are raising is the loss of, the community, okay? The loss of the community, because according to them, back then black neighborhoods depended on each other because they had no choice, but they had to depend on each other. Families knew one another. Churches were the center of community, and local businesses survived because black dollars stayed close to home. It's like black dollar by that time was circulating within, black community. Today, many people feel like that spirit has faded. It's no longer there. They wonder whether individual success slowly replaced the collective success. So that's why other people not necessarily wish segregation was back, but they wish, that best part that this thing brought. The second concern is about economic power. Now, in the video, several people believe that if black consumers mainly supported black-owned businesses, black-owned, black-owned services, okay, more wealth would circulate within the black community. I mean, the argument isn't really about separating people. It's about asking, where does the money go after it's spent, after it has gone from your account, after it's gone from your pocket? Where is it going? Is it leaving your community, or is it still in your community? Because if more businesses, banks, restaurants, and services were owned and supported within the community, could that create more jobs and opportunity? I hope the answer is yes. That's the question many people are asking. Now, the third concern is about who are you, who you are. It's about identity. Now, in the video, there is one speaker who talks about how many black people know the history of slavery, but still want to learn more about their history before slavery. They want to understand that, yeah, we were enslaved, but before we were, what happened? Yeah, of course, that's understandable. Learning about kingdoms, learning about cultures, invasions, achievements from across Africa can help people feel connected to much bigger story. Because sometimes before you continue the journey, you have to know where you are coming from. So maybe you can continue from where you left sometimes. So yeah, we really need to understand when other people want to understand more about what really happened before the history they obviously have. Now, many believe that knowing that history builds some sort of confidence, some sort of purpose, some sort of pride, it builds some sort of, some sort of self-confidence. You believe in yourself. Now, the fourth concern is about unity. Now, in the video, almost everybody, like several speakers, argue that today's black community feels more divided than previous generations. They point to competition, they point to distrust, they point to violence and lack of cooperation that they think exists. Now, whether everybody agrees with that or you may not agree with that, because it's about perspective, how you look at it. But I think it's clearly a feeling that many people share in the video. They are asking, how do we rebuild the trust that we think is lost, it has faded? How do we support one another again? How do we create stronger neighborhoods for the next generation? And then there is the fifth concern about self-reliance. Now, this thing about self-reliance, I think, comes again and again throughout the video. People are talking about it. Now, the idea is that every community becomes stronger when it can educate, when it can invest, when it can employ, invest in itself and support its own people. That's, of course, something different from saying people should be forced apart. I mean, there is a big difference between, choosing to strengthen your own community and supporting laws that once denied people equal rights. So those are two very distinct or different conversations. But the thing is, it's about self-reliance, building the black community. That's why other people are having this is it Asian boycott of Asian only businesses? People are having this. They are mostly calling it the redirection of black dollar, or wealth transfer, just to transfer that black dollar back into the community, so it should circulate within a black community. So I don't know what your take is, but at the end of the day, this discussion isn't really about bringing back segregation. It's about asking whether some of the strength that existed inside the black communities during those difficult years, like unity, economic cooperation, strong neighborhood support, depending on each other, looking for each other, caring for each other, can be rebuilt today without bringing back the injustice that caused them. And honestly, that's the conversation which is worth having, I'm sure. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think black communities were stronger because they had no choice, or do you think something important was lost after integration, being mixed with other people in the same community? What exactly is happening? What do you think can be the cause behind all this? Do you believe it's the biggest lesson from this discussion? Share your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will greatly appreciate, to read your comments, but let's keep them respectful. Yeah. I want to know. By the way, if this is your first time here, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Join us for more conversation about challenges, different perspectives, different ideas, that people share. Otherwise, I love that you came to watch the video. Please don't forget to share your thought. What do you think is the reason why people may somehow wish segregation was back for the sake of some good stuff that it brought, not for the sake of segregation itself? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. See you next time.